Today I want to talk about the elderly or aging animal and things you can do to make their life a little bit better, making them more comfortable and just making everyday activities a little bit easier on them. I have a few aging animals. I actually have three. I have an elderly dog, an elderly cat, and an elderly horse. So there are just certain things that you can do to make life a little bit better for them. So first thing is, if you have slippery floors like wood floors or tile floors, I have hardwood throughout. For my dog, a lot of times when they age, their hips can become a little bit more unstable. And it's very slippery for them, and a lot of dogs do complain about losing traction or being afraid of slipping on the floor. So an easy fix for that is just get lots of scatter rugs and put them on your main travel paths in your house. It makes things a lot easier for them to get around without slipping. So I just have throw rugs everywhere. A big area not to forget to put your rugs, oops, sorry about that, is in your feeding station. So in your feeding station, it's important to also have some traction there. Whoops, oh my goodness, I'm having camera issues today, sorry about that. So with my feeding station, I make sure that I have rugs for them so that she doesn't slip. Just another note too, a raised feeder is really important actually it's a great thing for dogs, but especially for your older animal. It's easier for them to eat more chest level than having to lean down, especially if they're having arthritis issues. So a raised feeder, and it can be just a simple raised feeder like this, which is a nice raised feeder. And you can pull the bowls out and just clean them. Also, speaking about bedding, I have a bunch of beds, as you can see here, and the bed my older dog prefers is something that is a little bit more orthopedic, like this. With the bolsters on the side, it gives her a little bit more support, and it's easier for her to get out of. These big puffy beds are wonderful, but for the older dog, it's a little bit harder for them to get in and out of. So just a little side note there. Another thing to consider is supplementation, which is very important for the older animal. Feeding a great food, of course, but then supplementing with supplements for joints and for overall health. I like to use a salmon oil for my animals. That helps with joint mobility, it helps with skin and coat, it just does a lot of great things. I also, for my older animals, will give them like a glucosamine chondroitin supplement, MSM as well, and also hyaluronic acid, or just a few great supplements for joints. And some of them come in a liquid, some are a powder, some are a pill, and there's just lots of great ones out there. For cats, you know, my cat's picky, and they have some wonderful joint supplements that just come in tasty little treats. So these are easy to give. This supplement here is called PureAll. I like it because it has vitamins and minerals and probiotics and enzymes. It also has some joint supplements in there, hip and joint supplements. So it's a good kind of overall supplement. I give my animals coconut oil, like a half a teaspoon. Coconut oil just has so many health benefits, and they love it. I give it to the cats and the dogs. And then salmon oil. I love this bottle. I just keep it in my fridge, and I do 2 pumps for the dogs and 1 pump for the cats. So there are many other supplements out there as well to consider to just help your aging animal. Another thing to think about is if you are using a litter box, that you may, and the cat has to go upstairs or downstairs to use it, you may want to move that litter box to the floor they spend most of their time. It can be hard for some older cats to go up and down those stairs. So if you're finding that there's more accidents, or they're reluctant to go upstairs, or they're holding their bladder longer than they should, think about moving that litter box closer to them to make it a little bit easier. You know, you may have to modify your exercise routine with an older dog, but what I have found is they don't want to give up their walks. They don't want to give up their special, you know, little trips with you, even though it may be difficult for them getting in and out of the vehicle. They don't want to miss it. So you can do things to make it a little bit easier, whether you have to help them in and out of the vehicle, or you can buy those little stairs or a ramp. Modify your walk so it's a little bit shorter, pick an easier route. So there are just things you can do so they still are able to get out and have that enjoyment without compromising their health, or making it too difficult on their bodies. Let's see. Other things, the older animal has trouble chewing, so I like to make sure my older animals have more of a wet food. So depending on what you're feeding, if you're feeding, let's say, a kibble to your dog, you can make it easier on the older animal by adding water to it. You can add chicken broth to it, bone broth, and that way it's a little bit softer for them. You can add a wet food on top of it and make it like a little stew. That makes it so much easier for them to eat. For my cats, I actually feed them an exclusive wet food. I have a cat with urinary tract issues, and you should not feed dry food. So they get an exclusive diet of wet food. I love some of the freeze-dried raw foods that are out there now. They can be a little bit pricey, but sometimes I'll just kind of alternate or feed the raw at night and then a good canned food in the morning. So you can find budget-friendly ways to feed your animal healthy. A few great freeze-dried raw foods, and easy too. I wish I had a big enough fridge to keep a big supply of raw food, but I don't. So, nor do I have the time half the time. So I like to find things that are super healthy, but also easy for me to feed. Love Primal. Their freeze-dried raw food is fabulous, and they're just like little nuggets that you add a little warm water to, and they puff up and they soften. My cats love it. Stella and Chewy's is another great brand. There's also Honest Kitchen, which is great. So you can still feed your regular food and then maybe top dress it with some of this stuff. But anytime you are going to make a change, just do it gradually, you know, for those animals with the sensitive stomach. But if you feed a nice, healthy food, a really high quality food, you will enhance their vitality. You'll have less skin issues, less digestive issues. So I will put some links below as far as websites where you can go and kind of research what some of the best dry foods, some of the best wet foods, some of the best freeze-dried raw foods, etc. are, and then kind of find one that you can find easily, but that's also within your budget. So just be an informed consumer when it comes to your animal, because there are a lot of bad foods out there, and that's why we're seeing so many issues with our animals. Okay, I got off track there for a minute. So if you have any recommendations of things to make your elderly animals' lives a little bit easier, please comment below. I'm sure I left out something. One thing to note, litter box. Let's go back to litter box. Make sure the litter box isn't too high. If you have a cat with some joint issues, sometimes if it's too high for them to get in and out of, they won't want to use it. So just make sure that the sides are low enough. You don't want them so low that they're kicking the litter out everywhere, but there are some litter boxes I've seen where the sides are very, very high, and it can be difficult for the older animal to get in and out of. Okay, I guess that wraps up this session. Thank you again for watching, and please leave comments below, and you feel free to message me if there's a topic that you would like me to research and talk about as well.